welcome back to another edition of the Orange Bloods Texas Football YouTube channel. I'm Geoff Ketchum, joined by Anwar Richardson. Do us a solid, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you like the video. Even if you don't like the video, we would like for you to hit the subscribe button. Give us a second chance in the event that we completely suck today. Anwar, by the way, everybody have a good weekend. Like, I just want everybody says that at the end, like, have a good weekend before we even get started. Anwar, I just want to wish you a good weekend. I'm in a fairly good mood. It's Friday. It feels like a Friday. It's our heading into the last week of school for our kids. So, and you have like a weekend shirt on.
I'm ready. I'm ready, man.
You look like a man that's about to be like, it looks like a beach shirt because of the color and maybe an alcoholic beverage shirt. That's all I'm saying.
The latter will definitely apply at some point today. I will be at home in the backyard, just sipping and enjoying life. So absolutely.
It sounds lovely. So look, we're going to talk about Jaydon Blue today, Texas Longhorn football commitment, running back, one of the best players in the 2022 recruiting class, certainly in this Texas recruiting class for the Longhorns. If you're not completely up to date on who Jaydon Blue is, he's a 5'11", 205-pound running back from Klein Cain High School. If you look at the Rivals rankings, he's number 62 in the nation. Rivals has him ranked as the number 14 player in the state of Texas. I personally have Jaydon Blue ranked as a borderline 5-star commitment and a player that I personally would give a 6.0 ranking in the Rivals ranking, which would put him in the national top 50 range. He's listed at 62. It's actually not that far of a disagreement in terms of national rankings. It speaks to the quality of this year's class that the state of Texas has 14 kids in the national top 62. What's interesting about Jaydon Blue, Anwar, is that yesterday he issued an announcement that he's going to sit out his senior season. He thanked his high school teammates. He thanked his coaches. He acknowledged that it was a tough decision, but he's foregoing playing as a senior so that he can work out with trainers and train and get ready for a career at the collegiate level with the University of Texas. It's a fascinating conversation. There's like a lot of ways to talk about this. First and foremost, it feels like we have to make some sort of acknowledgement to this new world that we live in, where a high school football running back says, yeah, peace out to my senior year. I've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, I mean, we acknowledge that, first of all, we're older, right? So we're in our 40s, and there's just a new world that's out there. ACL revealed their lineup this past week. I did not know who the majority of entertainers were. I had no clue. Who these people were. So it's an age thing, right? I'm at the stage in life where I will go to a Soul Fest concert, over the weekend, and I will do that. Oh, Boyz II Men is performing. Absolutely, I'll absolutely see it. New Edition. Fantastic. It's like that. So I have to understand, like, there's certain things I'm like, I don't get. So I don't want to be the old person in the room. So, but I do have to acknowledge that there is an age thing where I may not just get it. Now, if we go from a pure just football standpoint and we judge it on a football merit on itself, I totally get it from the life of a running back perspective. We catch how many times have we seen running backs that have maxed out in high school, who have taken hit after hit after hit after hit, and by the time they get to college, they're just not the same. They don't really necessarily live up to that, and there's tons of injuries that come along with that, and so there is a pounding that these guys do take in high school, where sometimes you do max out and you never really fully reach your potential. So from a football perspective, I can get if he's saying that's the reason I want to take some hits off my body and then be ready for that. So if we're judging from a football content, I get it now, and I think the young man has to be prepared for that. Or everyone associated with him has to be prepared for people questioning it from a competitive standpoint. Like, why would you essentially quit playing in high school? Like, you're going to have those kind of questions. Now, it doesn't affect him from a scholarship standpoint. I doubt it would affect him if he ever tried to go to the next level. But it just, there are going to be other people, the same way when guys started quitting bowl games and saying they weren't going to perform. And then people, you know, the older, like, oh my gosh, and this, they'll never be the same, and teams will never draft them. And then you just started seeing Christian McCaffrey, you know, still within the first 10 picks, Leonard Fournette, first 10 picks, and realized that the NFL teams didn't care. So I don't know if this will be a trend, Catch. I don't know how many guys are really good enough to, you know, one, to solidify a scholarship after their junior season, be able to have a committable offer and then still not be able to play. But it is new, you know, and maybe like with everything that's new, it throws you off at first, and maybe we'll get used to it. But for right now, just in the newness of it, I can see how people are saying, man, what the hell is this?
You know, what's interesting for me about is basketball and baseball kids do this a lot more so than football players. So some of the reaction is a football world not used to kids adopting rules that other kids in other sports would already have adopted. Mm-hmm. You know, I can remember this really first happening on the baseball world when Bryce Harper was going through when he was about to be the first pick in the draft. When he was Alfred Blue's or Jaydon Blue, golly, when he was Jaydon Blue's age, I've called Jaydon Blue Alfred Blue. Too much fantasy football, man. That is what that is. Yes. Too much fantasy football. When Jaydon Blue was approximately, you know, he and Bryce Harper, essentially, there's a lot of similarities there. And I think we see it with basketball kids. When we were talking about last year with Greg Brown, the basketball player at Texas, a lot of people wondered why he played high school ball with his high school team, because it wasn't a traditional power. There were some thoughts that he would have developed in a different way, potentially in a better way. You know, when you think about what it was that he was hoping to do, which was play 1 year of college ball and then go straight to the NBA, hoping to be a lottery pick, there were people in real time who raised their eyebrows a little bit that he played with the high school that he played with, and that he didn't potentially approach, I don't know, the last 12 months of his high school career the way many others do. And it's just not a world that football players know. I mean, baseball guys, it's more important who your select team is. Basketball players, it's more important who your AAU team is. Who are you traveling with? Your high school almost doesn't matter. Your high school seasons in basketball often don't matter.
Not at all.
They don't. And in football, it's just different. There aren't AAU teams, 7-on-7, even though it sometimes gets run like an AAU kind of circuit. It's not the same thing. And this is a kid who, and it seems like there's a lot of layers to this, but it seems like this is a guy who's viewing his high school career the way I think a lot of other sports would. Tennis, golf. Yeah, you might still play on the high school team, but I think in other sports, that high school season is, I think, not valued the way that it is in football. Where in football, it's been glorified for so long, the value of your senior season, because for most kids, it's the last year they're ever going to play. And it's not like that in basketball, right? Like, I still hang out with my boys from high school that I played basketball with. They hoop every weekend. They do. Like, it's a little different in football. And my reaction to Jaydon Blue sitting out his senior season is somewhat muted by the fact that the reality is if this was another sport, we wouldn't have the reaction that we're having to it, that it's happening in football. At least, you know, is this the beginning of a trend? I don't know. Like, it's the first time you and I have discussed this as a topic in 7 years. My general thought is we will probably see it more, but I don't think we would even raise an eyebrow if he were a baseball player and said he was just going to focus on a select baseball team. So I don't know. I have like old man reactions to this where you don't quit on your teammates and you got to play your senior season. But the truth is, I was never Jaydon Blue a day in my life. And I don't know what it's like to be a young man who's 17 years old who feels like there's a 3 or 4 or 5 year plan for him that if he maximizes it correctly, he will be a multimillionaire doing this thing that we're talking about. Who the hell am I to say that a guy making a business decision like that isn't doing the right thing if he's viewing himself as a commodity like that and wants to minimize some risk? I kind of get it. There's just that other part of me that wants to tell him, you're still maybe a 35% chance guy of being an NFL player. So don't take these memories that he in the end would otherwise be really valuable to you and discard them so easily, because there's no guarantee that you're going to make it to the NFL. And if you don't, one day you may find that you really regret not playing those high school games and you can't ever get them back.
Yeah, it's so funny, Catch. We're always in a hurry when we were young to like get out the house and get on our own. Then we finally got out and we had to pay bills. And you're like, man, you know what? I used to have it good back at mom's house. I mean, she used to stress me out, but I didn't have any bills. But every month, like these people want their money. And you start thinking, man, I should have saved up a little bit more. There's a couple of things that, as you were talking, like so the old man in me, right? 47, admittedly, like so close to 50, right? So I will admit that. The old man in me, there was like only one little thing in his announcement that I was like, and he said, this is an incremental step in the hopes of one day fulfilling my NFL dreams. And I'm just, I always get I get a little old manish when I hear guys commit and it's saying, for the next 3 or 4 years, I'm going to take my talents to such and such school. I'm like, okay, all right. Okay, LeBron, like just relax on, first of all, taking your talent somewhere. Second of all, your 3-year plan, right? Your 3 and out plan. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a plan, but I've always been a person that I understand that every kid who signs a scholarship believes they're going to play in the NFL. And I also understand the math on that. And we also understand that the math on it suggests you're not going to. The majority of you will never, ever do that. When they talk about the chances, the odds of you getting struck by lightning being greater than your odds of you making it into the NFL, it's tough. So when I hear high school kids talk about NFL, I'm just like, there's an old man in me that goes, dream your dream big, but let's also make sure we have that academic plan in place just in case it doesn't happen. But this is the other thing too, Catch, that I'm thinking about is this new world that we're in. Like think about two commits that Steve Sarkisian has right now, Catch. You've got a kid in Malik Murphy who committed strictly off of 7-on-7 stuff, strictly based off of what he was able to do in the 7-on-7 world, which was fascinating for us. We hadn't really seen anything like that, Catch, of a guy who was able to get major college offers with really no high school film. And now we have a guy who has high school film who's opting out of his senior year. So I don't know if these are the new trends, but clearly this is something that's happening. Clearly Steve Sarkisian and other coaches are potentially adapting to a new world that we're just seeing in real time. I could never imagine that a kid would commit. We've seen kids somewhat commit, maybe in like college, right, Catch? You've seen a guy go from basketball to football and then have that transition. Very few times have we seen a guy who have really no high school film have major offers. And we've really never seen a guy quit and just going into his senior year. So it's a new world, and maybe just a new world that we're adapting to. And then, at the end of the day, these are young people. And at the end of the day, you still want them to be successful.
If you were a college coach, would it bother you at all?
College coaches don't care about that.
I wouldn't.
It's all about the talent. You're not trying to win any moral battles, and that's not what's going to help you beat OU, is to beat a morality police or competitive police. All that, you just think, okay, he's got the talent, save your body, we'll coach you up when you get here.
The problem with being as old as you and I are is that we've just seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have seen on more occasions than I've got fingers and toes to count on, guys that have gone into their senior seasons, guys that I thought were big time, they got hurt. And the injuries, they matter. They matter. There's a kid, this is a long time ago, it's nearly 20 years, but there was a kid named Marco Martin out of the Dallas area. He was, God, he was as athletic as a big guy. He was like 6'4", 330 pounds, and he played tailback. He was a unique big man athlete. And I want to say in the state championship game of his senior year, last game ever, it was on television. Some kid cheap shot at him and ruined his knee. The whole state saw it. Whole state saw it. Some kid pissed at getting his ass whipped all game long, took a dive at the back of his knee, and like Marco Martin still signed with Texas. He was never the same again. I went to high school with a kid named Rodney Booker. I'm still, I think, good friends with Rodney. We're on email chains or text chains together. And Rodney, coming out of his junior year, went to a Texas A&M football camp, was the fastest player there, was a guy that was on the verge of getting big-time offers, guy that I played with. If I showed you his film and said, this is some kid out of Houston who's a senior this year, you'd go, holy shit, that guy's a monster. I've got the film. I occasionally look at it. I know how good he was. He got hurt as a senior, and his entire life changed because of it. He didn't end up getting the major offers that would have, I think, been on the table for him had he not been hurt, never quite recovered all the way. Like, that happens. So there's a part of me that hears Jaydon Blue say, what is in this for me? What is in this for me? Because I might get hurt. And what's the upside? What, that we get to the second round of the playoffs? Like, that's not good enough. And we see college kids talk about it all the time. Like, it's hard to say I'm going to come back to play for a national championship or something like that because they're so hard. Like, coming back guarantees you nothing. And it's not great for us because we like to see football played. And I would like to see Jaydon Blue play this season, but I totally get it. And I don't have like a contesting word for anything that he's done. Because the truth of the matter is he's in the top 1% of 1% of high school football players in this country. And what he has to think about is different than every other dude on his team and almost most players around the state. They want that senior year because it might be the only thing they ever have. This kid is looking at his future, and this is more of a burden than anything else. And not everybody will view it that way, but I kind of get a kid that does. I really do.
So this would be my last thought on it. This would be the last thing I'll say. I'll let you go and close it up. I wonder if Jaquindon Jackson, if he had to do it all over again, will he still play his senior year because he obviously got hurt in the playoffs? It was used to talk about that, and that set him back. Once he got here to UT, and it took him a while to recover. He transferred. And then the other person I was thinking about too, this is a little bit of an extreme. I was thinking about Jordan Whittington. And that guy was, stud, all world, everything, and probably didn't have to play his senior year, but he did. Now, what's interesting is because of the abuse that Jordan Whittington's body took, those couple of, years at, how do I say it? Because someone Cuervo. I say Cuervo in the last video, and someone called me out for it. So Cuervo, excuse me, no V. And he took a lot of, abuse, and it's really taken Jordan Whittington up until now to be at quote unquote 100%. So almost 2 years removed from high school. And I wonder, would he still do it again? And again, he won a state championship. So maybe that might be a little bit different, but if I had it, I would be curious to hear what a guy like Jordan Whittington, who was in the same position and right now for Jordan Whittington, his best memory is his high school memory, right? I mean, that's his best memory because
that high school memory has contributed to his college memories getting off to a troublesome start.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, he had that sports hernia, right? That
Yes.
it felt like he went back to Philadelphia 14 times, that it ended up not being, I guess, an easy situation, right? And sometimes those are the breaks. I mean, all I know is that from a college coaching perspective, when they've got a great player committed and he's a high workload guy, they're just thankful when the damn thing ends and they can get their hands on him without something bad happening. Blue plays a high impact position, a high workload position. You know, there's conversations, you know, you and I won't know everything going on with that decision. There's probably more to it than this. But from a competitive standpoint, I get any nervousness that exists. The thing about Whittington that would be interesting is to ask him that question now, ask him that question in 5 years, and ask him that question in 10 years. Because if in 5 years he's not in the NFL for whatever reason, my guess would be injury related at that point, that his body broke down and he didn't have enough foresight to know to take care of it. Like it was the way Jaydon Blue's kind of taking care. Look, Jaydon Blue is essentially saying, you know, with hits in football and practice and everything else, I'm just not going to get hit like 1,000 times this year. I'm just going to not do that. I bet Jordan Whittington today would tell you he wouldn't change a thing. But boy, history has a way, like whatever fate eventually has in line for us, the longer we go and the more time we have to reflect, I feel like the more nuance comes to our answer and the way we change the way we think about things. I'm guessing Whittington will be asked about this season. It'll be interesting to hear what he says. Because there's no getting around the fact that the very thing that Jaydon Blue is protecting himself against is the very thing that has kind of slowed down one of the most important players in the entire Texas program. I guarantee if you ask Tom Herman, hey, let's go back in time when Jordan Whittington commits. If he said he'd never play as a senior, how would you feel about that? He wouldn't even let the sentence come out of your mouth before he would say, yeah, man, for sure. Because what Tom Herman thought he was getting from Jordan Whittington, he really never got in the 2 years that he had with him. And I wonder, hernia never happens. That senior season never happens. His body is fully ready for a college football season. How different is the entire conversation around Jordan Whittington today? We don't know that he's even capable of being an A receiver at the collegiate level that can stay healthy for 12 games. Most of that comes off of the heels of what he dealt with in his final season in high school. If he had never played it, I could at least draw up a scenario where he goes into this season proven and exactly the guy we don't know yet if he's capable of being. Like I said, there's no right answers, but there's a lot of ways to look at this. And for me, and I'll just end it on this, I have a problem with the judgmental tones that a lot of people have had about the entire situation. Just feels like, I don't know. It feels like the kind of thing where we gang up on a student athlete of his ability, mostly because it's a world that we're envious of, right? Everybody that loves football has dreamed up the idea of what they would have done. How they would have done it if it had been them. And most of the times the dreams don't center around not playing. Go be the hero, go be the star. This kid's looking at his body and looking at his career as something with monetary value attached to it. And that in itself changes the discussion in a way that you and I probably won't ever be able to talk about. Because I was a good little high school football player, but even as a senior in high school, I was like, I'm 5'11", 5'10", 240 pounds. There's no place for me. And that's not what Jaydon Blue sees. So what the hell does it matter what I think I would have done? You know what? I'm really curious in the end what Jordan Whittington thinks he might have. I wonder what Jordan Whittington's real reaction was to hearing about this yesterday. And I wonder if Jaydon Blue talked to him. I don't know. I mean, the two guys are so close in terms of one guy's committed to Texas. The other guy is still at Texas, same kind of positions, at least going into college. I mean, there was some thought that Jordan Whittington could have been a running back. I don't know. I'm curious what guys like that think, and not so much what the average Orange Bloods poster thinks.
Fair enough.
Hey, like we said at the very beginning of the video, two things. Hit that like button if you liked it. Hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more of it. Most important, you guys have a good weekend. We'll do one of these videos on Monday. We'll overreact to things. It'll be fantastic no matter what. Looks like the weather's going to be good. You guys enjoy it. Later.